Okay, so this is about anxiety, the universal pest that I think that I know everybody feels because everybody talks about it. I'm a 36-year-old dude. I haven't felt actual anxiety since my lower 20s, but it started maybe when I was like maybe 15ish to my lower 20s, and I remember it being like it's in your stomach, kind of in your chest, and um, it's almost like it sucks your energy away, and it's almost like a block, and it's like a charge, and it's usually in response to a person or people or some situation, and it has something to do with you, the person who feels it, obviously, and whatever they're feeling it around, obviously. So, first thing is excitement and anxiety slash fear feel similar. So, learning to tell the difference between being excited um, and anxious is like a good jumping off point. Like, if you're feeling that shit, like, think to yourself, am I excited about this shit or am I afraid of it or do I feel some kind of fear or whatever? The first giveaway, the first clue about what it is it's not every person that people feel anxiety about. Like, there's people that we meet that almost have like a neutral charge where we don't feel anything good or bad about them. There's other people that we feel like a negative sort of charge where we're kind of like repelled by them. And then there's the other people that, for whatever reason, our particular makeup and their particular makeup, you feel as though you feel anxious at the thought of being in their presence and not being good enough. Anxiety is most commonly associated to like romantic situations. It's always the cliche situation where the girl or guy that you like walks into the room and just somehow there's some situation that just that freezes you, you know. And of course, I mean, so this is what it is. Like, when we go through our day-to-day life, for the most part, we're either pulling energy in from the environment, receiving it, I guess you could say, is kind of a way to put it, or pushing it out. You're either influencing the environment or the environment is influencing you. And when a particular person comes around, it drastically heightens that. Like, if you have anxiety, it's more than likely you feel almost at the mercy of the environment and people. Like, you have less influence over things. Anxiety is also a loss of control, loss of direction. Like, you could have a perfectly fine sense of direction, and then this person or people or event or situation comes along and just completely takes you out of whatever momentum you had going. It's almost like it shocks your system. So when we're doing shit, we're constantly flipping back and forth between influencing and being influenced, listening and talking. You know what I mean? So if you feel anxiety, consciously, I mean, like, actually, while you're there, think to yourself, like, I'm going to push out. I'm going to influence the environment. Like, physically, the energy in your body, your hands and your feet, feel that shit. Your face, the way your face moves when you talk, the way your eyes move, the way you move in general, as a flow. And you need to like tap into that shit and start flowing. It's sort of a common saying, like, quote unquote, get out of your head, but it's the exact opposite. You need to like animate yourself. Like, when you're in a situation where anxiety starts to spike up like that, it's almost like you're surrendering to the environment, and it's almost like you're waiting for it to act upon you because you suddenly have no sense of influence. You are incapable of acting in any way that even feels congruent to how you normally act. You almost feel like you're faking it because you have to conjure up something, um, and it's a fraction of what you're normally able to do. Like, you know how, um, ironically, when you're around somebody you actually like, you are sort of an idiot by comparison when you're around people you don't quote unquote like romantically, you're relaxed and laid back. That's because you just have a natural back and forth with the environment. That's like really getting to the heart of it. Like, we as human beings have a very, very finely tuned ability to just flip back and forth between, giving and taking from the environment, like breathing, um, with our attention. And even if it's like public speaking, um, or talking to girls or talking to whoever or anything, like people will tell you it sucks leading up to it. Um, and the mind just comes up with all kinds of different things that could happen. But once you get into it and you start moving, like shit gets fine. Um, and that's the thing, man. Like, you have to like trust yourself. Like, the tools you have now are the tools you'll always have when you're encountering various situations. So you just have to like trust your ability to like improvise and like on the spot do stuff and just let that happen. You know. So this day and age, when I'm like meeting people or whatever, when I'm talking about like casting out, the thing I do is impose a certain attitude. Like, I'm looking in real time as things are unfolding, as people are talking, for the funny thing. And that is, that's everything. That's all I care about. When people are talking, I'm waiting for the setup for like, that's what she said. And when I hear one, I fire that shit out immediately. And it's not pre-planned. What I'm saying is, when you're casting out, the idea of it is to understand a certain attitude and how to animate it. Because if you're doing that, it plugs in all the little gaps where you don't know what to do and what to say. An attitude fills in all gaps. So before you're entering any situation, an attitude is almost like an overarching state of mind, I guess you could say, that you can just pop on like a shirt, you know? Funny, serious, philosophical, seductive, like sexuality and seductiveness is like a whole vibe. Um, it's like when you're sitting on a couch next to a girl and you're trying to look for the funny, like that's the wrong time for that. Like, you got to switch modes, and we all have that. We all have sets of modes that plug in the gaps. We don't have to know what to say if we're like adopting a certain attitude, because that attitude fills everything in. It's like water. Um, but your personality is unique. So your personality is going to animate any attitude that anybody has totally differently. So that's why we say things like the bad boy attitude or the nice guy attitude, because the nice guy thing is looking for the nice. He's looking to put pillows all around the situation, and the bad boy is looking to look out for himself, and that fills all the gaps. The comedian, the clown, the the cop, a police officer adopts the police officer attitude when he pops that uniform on. He's a totally different person when he gets off work, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, a cop doesn't quote unquote break character because that's what he's doing for 8 hours. He's in cop mode. And as long as you're able to switch modes like that, you don't ever need to know what to say or how to say it. How to say it is almost automatic, as long as you know what attitude to adopt and when. Brings me back to the point of anxiety. Anxiety is almost like having no attitude whatsoever. Like, your most raw, sincere self is just wide open, like a bleeding, like a cut, and it's just bleeding out into the environment. Has no sense of direction, has nowhere to go, um, no identity whatsoever. Um, but an attitude, it puts it in a neat little box and allows you to operate in that box and gets rid of any kind of anxiety because you know what you're doing. You know how you're moving and why, you know? And it's all it's how you move too, it's how you speak. Obviously, different attitudes affect your movement, your voice, everything. And it sounds simple, but really, this shit is all simple. We make it complicated, but it really is that simple. And, you know, But when I run into my grandmother at the supermarket, I know what to do. Um, if I run into my ex, I know what to do. If I run into my old basketball coach, I know what to do. If I run into my boss, I know what to do. Those are all separate, I don't even want to say attitude or personalities. Those are all separate modes. I don't talk to my grandmother the same way I talk to my friends. Um, there's certain concessions. Obviously, we all know this. That's, you know, society 101. Um, but you're being sincere. Like there's no faking this. And the best people have a full range of attitudes or whatever that they can adopt. You know, sometimes you gotta fight, like literally fist fight. You gotta know how to do that. And it's almost like a multi-layered onion. You know, the thing that binds all these separate little attitudes for all these different people is you, your mannerisms, how you are. The core of cores never changes. It's just the sense of direction. And life is a lot easier when you know what to be and when to be it. Um, if you got to go up and talk on stage, you need to be pushing energy out. You need to know when to receive the applause. You need to know when to push it back out. It's a back and forth, just on a bigger scale. But if you're up on stage and you're only receiving, taking in, then you'll be looking at the dude in the front row staring at you, wonder what he's thinking. If you're just pushing out, you have no um, relationship with the audience. You know what I'm saying? It's always back and forth. Part of me also wants to say, like, anxiety in general is just a function of learning what sort of personality you even have, because shit has to feel right. It does. There's no way around that. And everybody goes through that process. So there's always going to be a period of time where you just don't know. But it seems like it's extending later and later in life. Like a real fear, not knowing how to handle situations, and the feeling of animating yourself, like really being up in yourself, is quite different versus just passively radiating it out, letting it seep out. Animate yourself. I remember I had a friend named Will Harvey. He was a heavier guy. Um, very, 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 very socially awkward. And one time I was in 7-Eleven with him, and this beautiful girl walked in, and I looked at him, and whatever was going on inside of him went straight to me, and I started to like feel his fear and anxiety. And that's how it is. Like it's really some kind of energetic shit. Um, but I could feel it because I've known this guy my entire life. I know everything about him and how he exists, how he moves, how he talks, everything. And such a drastic shift like that is stark, you know. And he's looking at me like waiting for me to like say and do the things that he wants to hear to make him like feel better, to make the sense of awkwardness and fear just go away. Like, can you please lead me out of this situation? We go from just poking around the 7-Eleven, like, a couple of friends who've been friends for 25 years, to all of a sudden, you just feel this pulse come out of him, and he's sort of like walking in circles and mumbling and touching his face a lot and picking up stuff off the shelf and putting it back that he has no intention to buy, and just saying things that don't make sense or have any purpose, you know. And in that moment, like, women cause a immediate physical reaction in men, and if we don't know where to put that energy, because it's a spark, it's a boom. If you don't know where to put that, it just leaks out of you with nowhere to go, and it feels like judgment is being rendered on you, even if it isn't. It's just automatic. And if you don't know what to do with that, it's just going to leak out of you and run through you with nowhere to go. In his mind, he's not thinking about talking to her or anything like that, or trying to take her on a date or anything. That's not even in his lexicon of thought. He's thinking about how to feel and appear as normal as humanly possible as a dude buying stuff at 7-Eleven for this period of time, for this 2 minutes. And while we're checking out, there's a weird tension, and the whole vibe has changed until, the attractive woman is gone. And, he might say, like, that girl was hot. You know what I'm saying? And we all know that feeling. We all know what's going on there. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And all young men and young women go through a phase like that. But then I have other friends. And you know what? As guys, most guys that I've known in my life, when there's an attractive woman suddenly on the scene, there's a perceptible change in the vibe. You know, there always is. There's no way out of that. Um, the difference is some people are being attractive, feel attractive, and some don't. Some feel judged, and some are judging, or both. But most are just feeling judged. Like everybody's looking at how they're acting. Am I doing this right? Do I look cool? There's a hot girl around, Me personally, um, I'm really good at. I know who I am. Like I have I got myself pretty well locked down. So I always go for the funny. Doesn't matter how good looking a girl is. There's always something funny going on, or always, especially if you're clever. If you're clever, there's always something funny. Um, and sometimes I just want to know how people laugh. I want to know what their laugh sounds like. I want to know what their sense of humor is like. Are they gonna get it if I say some weird shit? Most people do, you know. But yeah, it's interesting. Anxiety. I know this sort of drifted into almost like a dating thing, but for the last bit, um, don't make sex the attitude or thing you're looking for, because it's a pretty fast track to a one-dimensional situation. Sex is part of the pie. If it comes out of a relationship at all, it is part of a pie that has 15 pieces in it. Like I said, I personally like, sometimes when I see a girl I like, I think, wonder what her laugh sounds like. Wonder if she's sarcastic. I wonder what her sense of humor is like. I wonder what she thinks of the world. Like, that's where my brain's at, you know what I'm saying?